Right now, in your bedroom, if the temperature climbs just a few degrees past comfortable, your whole night falls apart. You toss. You kick off the blanket. You check the clock at 2 a.m., wide awake, sweating, furious. And here's the strange part: your ancestors dealt with heat that made your worst summer night look mild, with no air conditioning, no fans, no ice, nothing. So how did they actually sleep? The answer isn't what most people assume, and it starts with a discovery that upended everything scientists thought they knew about ancient sleep. But there's a second twist coming: something about your own body. Right now, tonight, that's a direct leftover of how your ancestors solved this exact problem. For most of human history, night wasn't a break from the heat. In the open savannas of East Africa, where our species spent hundreds of thousands of years, daytime temperatures could soar past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and even after sunset, the ground and air held on to that heat for hours. There was no retreating indoors, no walls, no insulation, nothing standing between early humans and the world outside. And yet somehow, generation after generation, they slept enough to survive, hunt, raise children, and pass on their genes. That alone should stop you for a second. Sleep deprivation today wrecks memory, mood, immune function. So how did a species with none of our modern comforts manage it night after night for millennia? Part of the answer lies buried in your own biology, and it goes back roughly 2 million years to a pivotal shift in human evolution. Around that time, our ancestors began losing most of their body hair and developing something unusual in the animal kingdom: a dense covering of sweat glands, millions of them, spread across almost the entire body. Most mammals can't do what humans do. A dog pants. A lion seeks shade and waits out the heat. But early Homo erectus could sweat efficiently across bare skin, releasing heat fast enough to stay active during the hottest hours, when predators and competitors were resting. It was a survival advantage, letting our ancestors hunt at high noon when the African plains were empty of danger. But this same evolutionary gift became a nightly test. Producing that much sweat meant losing enormous amounts of water and salt, and at night, without water sources nearby, that cooling system could turn into a liability. So how did they manage the actual hours of darkness? This is where archaeology gives us something remarkable. At sites like Border Cave in South Africa, researchers uncovered bedding dating back roughly 200,000 years. Layers of grass, ash, and plant material, deliberately arranged and periodically burned to control insects and manage the sleeping space. That detail matters more than it seems. Burning old bedding wasn't just about hygiene. Ash-lined ground stays cooler than bare earth, and reworking the layers likely gave early humans a way to manage moisture and temperature in the exact spot where they lay down each night. In other words, before recorded history, before agriculture, before permanent shelter of any kind, humans were already engineering their sleeping environment. Then there's fire. It seems counterintuitive that people struggling with heat would sit closer to flames, but fire served a purpose that had nothing to do with warmth. It kept predators at bay, allowing early humans to sleep more exposed and in more open, breezier spots than they otherwise could have risked. Anthropologists studying fire use at sites in Israel and South Africa, some dating past 300,000 years, have found that hearths weren't randomly placed. They were positioned at the edges of sleeping areas, creating a protective perimeter that let people rest in the coolest available airflow, while the fire did the dangerous work of keeping the darkness at bay. This is the moment researchers realized something unexpected: heat wasn't the only enemy of a good night's sleep. Safety was just as urgent, and every solution ancient humans developed had to solve both problems at once. That combination, safety and temperature, explains something else that puzzled scientists for years. If you had asked most people even 2 decades ago how ancient humans slept, they probably would have said something reassuring, like 8 hours, straight through, just like modern doctors recommend. But when anthropologists Jerome Siegel and his colleagues actually studied 3 pre-industrial societies still living without electricity: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, they found something that didn't match the story at all. These groups slept far less than 8 hours a night, sometimes closer to 6. And crucially, they didn't sleep in one unbroken block. Their sleep was shaped almost entirely by temperature, not by clock time or daylight. People tended to fall asleep several hours after sunset, once the ground had finally released enough of its stored heat, and they woke naturally as temperatures began climbing again before sunrise. Cooling, not darkness, was the trigger. This finding reframes something inside your own body that you've probably never thought twice about. Your core temperature naturally drops in the evening, part of the process that makes you feel sleepy, and it continues falling through the night before rising again near dawn, nudging you awake. That isn't a modern quirk. It's an ancient survival mechanism, a rhythm built by hundreds of thousands of years spent sinking sleep to the cooling and warming of the earth itself. Every time your bedroom feels too warm and you can't drift off, you're experiencing a system that was fine-tuned for open-air nights on the savannah, not sealed bedrooms with poor airflow. If this kind of thing fascinates you, the ideas hiding inside your everyday habits, this is exactly the sort of story this channel is built around. So it's worth sticking around and subscribing for what's coming next. But the heat-driven puzzle goes even deeper, because researchers studying these same modern hunter-gatherer groups noticed something else entirely unexpected. None of them napped nearly as often as scientists predicted, despite the exhausting midday sun. Instead, many pushed activity into the cooler hours around dawn and dusk, and deliberately rested, not necessarily slept, through the punishing early afternoon heat. This wasn't laziness. It was thermoregulation, an active strategy to avoid overheating during hours when sweating alone couldn't keep the body safe. Shelter placement mattered too. Excavations of ancient camps repeatedly show sleeping areas positioned to catch cross breezes, tucked near rock overhangs that blocked direct sun exposure but still allowed airflow. Every choice, from where to lie down to when to lie down, was a quiet negotiation with the climate. And this reveals something almost poetic about ancient nights. Without electric light, without walls sealing them off from the world, early humans were never fully separated from the environment the way we are now. Their sleep responded directly to wind shifting, humidity dropping, temperatures easing. It wasn't broken sleep in the way we imagine insomnia today, it was sleep in conversation with the planet. Multiple shorter periods of rest, sometimes interrupted by quiet hours of watching the fire, tending to a child, or simply lying awake until the air felt right again. So the next time your bedroom feels unbearably warm and sleep won't come, know that you're not malfunctioning. You're running ancient software, the same internal thermostat your ancestors relied on for hundreds of thousands of years, standing at the edge of firelight, waiting for the ground to finally cool beneath them. The difference is, they had no choice but to listen to that rhythm, sleeping when the world allowed it, waking when it demanded. You have air conditioning, fans, cold water at arm's reach, and still, some nights, your body insists on doing things the old way. Maybe that's the real discovery here. Comfort changed everything about how we live, but it never fully rewired what sleep actually is. Somewhere beneath the mattress and the blackout curtains, you're still listening for the same signal your ancestors waited for around a dying fire, the quiet physical relief of the world finally cooling down.